I don't know what happened, guys. I went go live and apparently I didn't go live. So, hello. I was talking to myself the entire time. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are okay and having a great day, unlike me, who is clearly clueless as to what is happening right now. I had my little countdown going and I guess it went down with me alone. So, craziness. So, I will go back up here. I was saying hi to all of you and I guess I was alone saying hi to myself. You have to laugh at yourself sometimes because it is just absolutely crazy. So I saw Uncle Al in here. Hello, Uncle Al. Hi, Sassy Gal. Thank you for modding. Hello, Nate. Thank you for coming. Hi there, Arc Wild Man. Good to see you. Awesome to see you, Karen. Thanks for coming. And Apartment Prepper, thank you for modding. I see you in here. I'm just like so befuddled right now how that could happen to me, but I'm not surprised. I am a dit sometimes. I'm going to own it. So, anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started now. So, today, guys, I just wanted to go over a few things with you in regards to the World Health Organization and some updates, some different things that I've found. Is Vancity in here? Hi, Vancity. Thanks for coming. And so first, I just wanted to give you guys an update in regards to the international health regulations and what transpired with those amendments to the IHR. And the only one that was agreed upon was that they would reduce the time of entry into force of any of the future amendments that they put through from 24 months to 12 months. So if they were to go ahead and try to put any other amendments forward to add to those, then instead of it taking 24 months to go into effect, it would go into effect within 12 months. So none of those other proposed changes were adopted, which would have given the Director General a lot more authority and power during a public health emergency of international concern. So that is the good news. I wanted to start out with the good news before we started getting into the other things. I did see a few other people join us. Hi there, Daryl Calhoun. Thank you for coming in. Hi, Peaceful Monkey. And Bitter Critter is in here as well. Hi, Bitter Critter. Good to see you. So, what I wanted to let you guys all know is that all of the documents I will be discussing with you guys today are going to be linked in the description box below so that you guys can conduct your own research. Never just take my word for it. It's easy to get something wrong. I did my best to comb through this and try to not do that, but there is always that chance of error. So the last update that I gave you guys on my community page was that essentially they were going to be meeting to vote on this pandemic treaty in June. And apparently because of all that pushback, it's been reported that this is going to be moved out to 2024. But I wanted you guys to be made aware of exactly what is still transpiring in the background because there is a lot of stuff going on. So the World Health Organization has a governance body called the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body, or INB, and they are the ones who have been tasked with drafting and negotiating this pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. And they are going to be meeting in December of this year to vote on a response as to whether or not this draft that they're creating will be adopted under Article 19 or Article 21 of their constitution, the WHO's constitution. And the difference being that Article 19 gives the WHO a wider scope to address health issues, while Article 21 limits the binding agreements to fewer topics. Although, in my opinion, they're not few enough, and there could still be significant damage just through Article 21 alone. So we're going to go into this, and the majority of the WHO member states are actually in favor of a legally binding instrument, but there were differences in how they wanted to proceed. So the World Health Assembly, the decision-making body of the WHO, can adopt a legally binding instrument under both articles of the WHO Constitution. But some felt that Article 19 is more comprehensive and that it allows the World Health Assembly to adopt agreements and treaties on a matter, any matter, within the WHO's competence and can include measures beyond the scope of Article 21. And there was only one member nation who was not okay with this, and they're not in preference for either one of these articles. They wanted it to go non-legally binding recommendations under Article 23. And guess who this member nation is? Russia. So I just want you guys to kind of file that in the back of your minds with everything that is transpiring between large R nation and euchre and all the other things that are going on. I think there is a lot more that is taking place in the background than what we are actually being made aware of. So I just wanted to kind of toss that out there. So according to the global law experts, Article 19's advantage is that it allows the WHA to adopt agreements and treaties on any matter within WHO's competence. So an example of a treaty adopted under Article 19 is the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. So, in other words, there is virtually no issue relating to health that an Article 19 treaty cannot cover. This gives the INB wide scope to address not just outbreak detection and response, but also wider issues such as the zoonotic leaps from animals to humans, antimicrobial resistance, and this one, even climate change as a health threat. And I think that is the bigger one that we need to be concerned about with everything that is going on with the reduction in our fossil fuels and this push for green energy. And this is the one that concerns me, is that we have this situation going on with the climate change and that essentially being made into the next pandemic. So a treaty, while by definition is binding, can have a mix of both binding and non-binding elements, something that several member states also want. So getting into what Article 21 would entail, the WHA can adopt regulations such as the International Health Regulations, which govern how WHO and member states operate during a health emergency such as the C-19. It has limitations, though, and that international binding instruments under this article can only be adopted under 5 areas. So these 5 areas are sanitation and quarantine, disease nomenclature, diagnostic procedures, and standards for safety and efficacy, as well as advertising and labeling of drugs and other medical products. And I don't know about you guys, but even those 5 areas are not areas that I particularly care for them to be involved in the decision making concerning my healthcare or those of my family members. And hearing things like quarantine doesn't exactly conjure up pleasant visuals, especially when we think of this past pandemic and the lockdowns associated with it, right? Diagnostic procedures, so jabs for anything they seem necessary. And we can already kind of see the handwriting on the wall with this current outbreak of this monkeypox and the fact that they have declared that another global health crisis and the potential for abuse regarding more jabs. So, unlike treaties, regulations enter into force for all member states at the same time after a deadline set by the WHO Director General, except those that formally object to it. So, that is what they were trying to accomplish by revising those international health regulations that haven't been touched since 2005. So, because that didn't work, they're going to continue pursuing the other tactic by creating this treaty instead. So, if not adopted by consensus, Article 19 requires a 2/3 vote of the WHA, and they are saying that could be challenging, especially if powerful states such as, China and the US oppose it, while Article 21 requires a simple majority vote. But I just want to go ahead and add something here, and this is my opinion. But if the United States was the one who went ahead and put up the amendments to the IHR in the first place, I don't see them actually having a problem with Article 19 at all. So I think they will be on board. And then when we're talking about China, they already have their people under really stringent, tight regulations. So I don't understand why they would be opposing this one either. So when I think about it, I'm thinking about it that direction. So, like I said, in order for this to be adopted into law under Article 19, they would need a 2/3 vote by the member nations. So each member nation getting one vote. But under Article 21, it's just a simple majority. So all they need is 51%, and that's going to suffice. So to me, it sounds like this is a done deal. We're either going to get stuck with Article 19 or Article 21. Article 19 being the more stringent regulations. So the INB Bureau has repeatedly stated that no decisions are being made right now. They are in the negotiation phase. They're going ahead and creating this conceptual zero draft that they call it. But this is going to be discussed in their meeting in December. So I just want you guys to file this in the back of your minds. Be aware of it. This is a big deal, even though they don't have this draft and they are in the process of creating it. And they're saying that it wouldn't go into effect until 2024. They are still going ahead and creating the parameters for that document once it is ready to be enacted. So that is being voted upon in December. And then I wanted to go ahead and start talking about the different language that I discovered inside of this draft. And I have inserted a copy of this draft for you guys in the description box. I would love for you guys to take a look at it when you have time. I kind of combed through and I didn't see anything too crazy in the first 6 articles that they are trying to add. But I did start noticing some interesting language once we get into Article 7. So the first one on here is One Health. And One Health is the whole of government and whole of society. One Health approach is fundamental to achieving and sustaining the objectives of this WHOCA2, and that is just the name they gave this draft. So measures to promote a comprehensive One Health approach, promoting coherence among all relevant actors, instruments, initiatives, and issues such as, and the first one on here is climate change and antimicrobial resistance insofar as they relate to pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response, and measures to strengthen multi-sectoral, coordinated, integrated One Health surveillance system. So we're hearing things in here, language about surveillance systems. Automatically, when I think of that, I think about the One Pass that they were using with the QR code. They want measures to strengthen regular monitoring and sharing of pathogens with pandemic potential from wildlife and domesticated livestock. And we have seen this constant assault on our domesticated livestock. I know we all know about the bird flu and the culling of all the birds. And I know that Christian over at Ice Age Farmer is a big one to go ahead and give us all the details surrounding those sorts of things. But there is this huge push, and the animals are dirty. We shouldn't be eating them. We need to stay away from them. And that language is inside of this draft. So cooperation at the international level to safeguard human health and to detect and prevent health threats at the interface between animal and human ecosystems. So they want to control everything from the tiny little gnat to us in this ecosystem and One Health approach. And so as a side note, I did go ahead and do some research on who One Health is. And I think this will be interesting for you guys. So they were established in 2009. It is the first formal office dedicated to One Health established in a U.S. federal agency, and they are a part of the CDC. And this office is located within the National Center for Emerging Zoonotic Infectious Diseases in Atlanta, Georgia. So One Health office experts work closely with human, animal, domestic, and wildlife, and environmental health partners in the U.S., in other countries, and in these international organizations. And then they just go on and use their usual jargon. So One Health focus areas are zoonotic and emerging infectious diseases, pandemic preparedness and response, One Health emergencies at the human, animal, and environment interface, One Health pan-respiratory disease surveillance, global health security and capacity building. And then they want to strengthen these coordinations with the US and other partners. And then there's also language in here toward the end where they're talking about preventing these zoonotic diseases between people and their pets. So they are targeting our pets. That language is in here. And then I also stumbled upon this Relief International, and they're another organization that began partnering with the WHO in 2009. And together, their work ensures taking care of people in fragile settings for their highest level of health. So they want to do this whole one approach as well to combat disease and support people's complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And excuse me while I get a little bit of water, guys, because my throat is starting to get dry from all the talking. But so anyways, what I thought was interesting here is this fact that this Relief International began partnering with the WHO in 2009, and then this One Health was also established in 2009. So I started thinking back, and I'm like, what happened in 2009? Well, then I remembered that happened to be the year that we had the H1N1 swine flu outbreak. And so I'm not 100% sure if that is any relevance to why One Health was established and why the WHO began work with the Relief International, but I wouldn't be one bit surprised if it were. So moving back into that draft that we were discussing, governance of whole of government and other multi-sectoral actions at national level governance is article number 8. So they want this whole of government, whole of society approach. And listen to this language: mitigate the socioeconomic impacts of pandemics, including but not limited to those affecting economic growth, employment, trade, transport, gender inequality, education, food insecurity, nutrition, and culture. So when we hear this, with this one, I think we can kind of see where their whole of government, whole of society response might go. And when they start naming things like employment, transport, gender inequality, food insecurity, education, we know that they have no plans to help in those areas, but greater plans to control those areas. And they are letting us know that they are in the throes of boxing us in at every turn under the guise of this whole of society inclusive approach, when in all actuality, all whole of society really means is that they will be micromanaging us on every level. And we see this already in the works with talks of the central bank digital currencies that are being developed, the social credit scoring system, and the managing of our carbon footprints. So number 9 in this draft: governance, community engagement, and whole of society actions at national and subnational levels of governance. So in this one, it says measures to ensure engagement of civil society, communities, and non-state actors, including the private sector, as part of the whole of society response. So when they say things like including the communities and non-state actors, they mean your major corporations. They need to get them on board to help implement their schemes. So they will help enforce those job requirements by telling you that you can no longer work there if you aren't up to date. You will have to put on your spacesuit if they tell you to. And if you participate in any social media that your employer deems undesirable, well, then that will be cause for removal as well. So big tech, big pharma, big corporations, big bank, they're all going to be working hand in hand with big government and the elite's plan for full control. So number 13 on here, pandemic and public health literacy, addressing science, public health, and pandemic literacy, and tackling false, misleading, or disinformation. Measures to manage public information, risk communication, and infodemics through effective channels, including social media. Measures to conduct regular, listen to this, social media listening in order to identify misinformation and so to design communications and messaging to the public and counteract misinformation, disinformation, and false news. Development and implementation of educational and public awareness programs. So we're going to have programs, measures to provide timely and effective global communications based on science and evidence that counters misinformation, disinformation, and false news. So I have to say, this one is probably the most disturbing of all, but we could see it coming from a mile away with all the current censorship we've experienced. And we have to invent an entire dictionary for new words just so people can understand what the heck that we're talking about anymore as content creators, or we're going to get shut off the air. So basically, they're letting us know that not only are they going to be monitoring everything we share on social media, they're going to continue to shut us out with their science and evidence so that the only information that people receive will be the information that they want them to hear. And we hear these things, and many times it seems too dystopian to be a reality. But then when you see what they're working on in their back rooms, it becomes very clear that they have no intentions of stopping. And we know that the WHO and the WEF, the World Economic Forum, are joined at the hip, and that what one evil organization doesn't dream up, the other one will. Thank you so much for In My Crosshair for that donation. That is awesome. I really appreciate it. So they're apparently also after our vehicles to the point of telling us we no longer need to own them. We can just sell them and then share our vehicles. And this is something that Apartment Prepper shared with me. And this is coming from the WEF. They tell us we really aren't using them that often anymore anyhow, so why keep them? They're just impacting climate change after all. Well, excuse me, but if it's parked in the driveway and I'm not using it, you just busted your entire theory wide open, because if it's not going anywhere and using any precious fossil fuels, then what is it harming? It's not a cow farting in the driveway. So I guess it's offensive now because it's parked and it could potentially move. Here's an idea. Maybe you turn your head and don't look at it. We don't all have our own private limousines and drivers that can take us wherever we want to go. So you go first and set the example. And even then, I'm going to have to wave at you as you walk off the cliff because I'm not a lemming. That's how I feel about it. So we've entered a time where control is all anything is about. They don't want us to own anything. They want us to eat bugs, or apparently each other now, because that's what come out in the New York Times. And I have a theory, and yes, it's just my personal theory, that lab grown is nothing but a cover story for what they're really doing. That is simply just a way for them to try to entice us to participate and make it more palatable. But think about it. Do they really need a lab when there are so many people that just pass away unexpectedly? Wouldn't it make more sense to just tell us it's a lab when in reality it's just us? They would love the idea of getting us to eat each other because, well, then that would be the ultimate climate sustainability now, wouldn't it? And I didn't intend to take us down this morbid route, but I think the only thing left to do at this point is for us to do our best to continue to try to wake up the population in hopes that we will see more pushback, that we will unite against this common enemy, that we will see mass non-compliance, because that's what it's going to take, folks. It's going to take mass non-compliance, and then they will be the ones on the run in the end. And only, I think, if we decide to run them off like the people did in Sri Lanka, let's make sure that we have someone waiting in the wings to install so that there isn't a void created and a vacuum effect where the next evil dictator can just step up to the plate and get inside again. So that is what I have for you guys tonight. I think that we are going to have to cling to the cross. I think that we are going to have to spend more time with God. He is going to have to direct our footsteps and give us knowledge of what we need to do to continue to prepare, because these people, these evil people, are working overtime in the background, and they are not stopping. Just because we got this, the international health regulations pushed out and that got taken care of, they are still working on this draft, and they still have every intentions of pushing these things and getting them going into play. So I wanted to just give you guys this as food for thought, let you know what is still happening in the background. And if you guys have anything for me, just go ahead and drop it into chat. put it in all caps. Sassy Gal had a great video out. If you guys haven't seen that one, she was talking about not complying. She was talking about them collecting our DNA and the different ways that they have been attempting to do that, and how she had a conversation with her children surrounding that, and that we all really need to get on board with this mass non-compliance, because that is what it is going to take. So does anybody have any other anything they want to drop in here? Any questions? I don't want to keep you guys on here forever tonight. I know this was a shorter one, but this was really important information that I felt like I needed to share with you guys. I haven't heard anybody else talking about it. And it was something that I started researching and came across. And a lot of it's because I spent a lot of time, as many of you know, working on this several months ago when I started doing all the research surrounding the IHR and the treaty then. So I just thought I would dig into it further and kind of see if there was anything else going on. And oh, baby, there is other things going on. So I just wanted to do this real quick for you guys. That's right. Our stories is already written. The Lord knows our path and will guide us until our purposes are complete. That is 100% correct. I love that. Thank you for that. I did want to go ahead and yes, Kate Murphy, the line, it's a smart city. Yes, I actually shared that on my community page. If you I don't know if you probably didn't see it there, but yes, I did share that video out. And if you guys haven't seen it, go ahead and go over to my community page and click on that. That is extremely disturbing. That is something they are working on. I believe it's in Saudi Arabia that they are developing this. I think they said it was going to cost like $1 trillion or something to put this thing together. But to me, it looks essentially like a prison, a glorified prison. You will like never have to leave this place because it has everything that you need. So that is what they are selling us. Do you guys have anything else for me that you wanted to comment on, or a question that you had? Hopefully I covered it in detail. Like I said, all those documents are going to be in the description box for you, so you can definitely go and check them out for yourself. There is a lot of stuff going on that we need to be made aware of, and it just kind of flies under the radar because nobody's really none of these large news organizations are reporting on it. Nobody's going to cover this sort of thing. You really have to dig into it for yourself. And sometimes you just stumble upon this stuff. And that's kind of me. I am somebody who's always enjoyed research. And so if I find a thread, I'll just keep unraveling it until I figure out what it's attached to. Let me see this one. When do you think people will push back? You know what? I think we have already witnessed where people are starting to wake up to a certain extent. I think that is what you are starting to witness in places like Sri Lanka, in places like Panama. We are seeing the people, they are getting, they've had enough. They're getting fed up. I think for us here in our country, I think unfortunately we are just still too well kept at this point. We are, I'm not going to use the word spoiled because I know some people don't like that, but we do have a lot more at our disposal than a lot of other countries do. And so I feel like it's going to take more for us to get really uncomfortable before we start pushing back to the extent that we should be. And hopefully that answers your question. Yes, Uncle Al, I completely agree with you on that one. I noticed at the beginning you were making comments about the different diseases. I think you said 6 of them that transpired after the Spanish flu. And one of the ones I know for sure that manifested again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe one of them was polio. And we've actually seen a couple cases of that already starting to show up in, I think it was New York, wasn't it? And so as we see these things, we know that that is a possibility. And I believe they're going to continue to try to leverage these for more control. So each one of these, they will probably go ahead and declare a public health emergency of international concern so that it gives them more authority over each one of those. Talk about the inflation bill. I guess I don't know if I know anything about that, Peaceful Monkey. I probably haven't heard a lot about that. I had a question from Renata Clark. Where was that one at? Let me scroll up. Oh, it's not in caps. That's why I didn't grab it. Okay. Do I think there will be another shutdown? I think there is a possibility of that, especially as we get closer to the elections. And I haven't shared this with anybody except for Diane. This is something that I shared privately with her. But I'm one of those people that does have dreams. And I did have a dream. I believe it was last December. I had a dream. And in that dream, I was in Sam's Club, and we were trying to hurry up and grab our last minute items because martial law had been declared. And in this dream, it was late fall. All the leaves had almost fallen off the trees completely. And I knew in this dream, don't ask me how I knew, but I knew that it was around the time of Halloween. And at the time, I'm not really one who has regularly followed a lot of politics and stuff. And so I had to actually ask my husband, I said, baby, I'm like, when's the midterms? When are the midterms? And because I didn't know if it was a different day of the year when we voted on those. And he said, no, it's the same as our regular election. It's on November 3rd. And then that made a lot more sense to me because the timing of that would be the case. I'm not saying this is for certain. I'm not saying, that God showed me this or not. I may have just, been watching something and felt impressed. But like I said, that is something that I had, and I thought I would just go ahead and throw it out there and share with you guys. But I think we need to be watchful, and we need to be prepared to the best of our abilities for those things. Thank you so much, Vancity, for the super sticker. You did not have to do that, but I greatly appreciate it. Did I miss anything else? Was there any other questions or comments or anything that you guys wanted to throw out there for me? I don't see anything else. I'm gonna get that one off of there. Oh, did I miss? All right, I don't see anything else on here. Yeah, exactly, Peaceful Monkey. Nobody knows for certain. None of us know for certain. I think we all have our gut feelings. I think a lot of us know that things are definitely heating up. You can definitely feel something else in the air. We could be coming. Hey, can you have those graham crackers? Yeah, you can have some graham crackers. I'll share. Yes, Daryl. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are lining up. We're definitely seeing, we can definitely see a collapse in the economy. They can say it's a recession, but I think we can see where it's headed. And I do have my thoughts in regards to that as well. When I take a look at everything that's transpiring, I see these larger corporations. You can already see where they are starting their mass layoffs. And I think if we get to a point where they have to scale back so far and get down to a skeleton crew, and they are incurring so many extra fees and costs and things on them because of the fuel and the inflation that they're experiencing, then I think we're going to see a situation where some of them start going under, because you've got to understand that even if we don't experience very heavy food shortages like other countries may, if everything gets to the point where it's so expensive that we're no longer able to purchase those items that are sitting on the shelf, and those vendors are having to eat the costs, they're going to go out of business. They're going to go under. And once they start going under, and then we're going to start seeing more like a third world type country where we only have one type of style of bread. We only have one kind of milk. We only have all of our choices will get greatly limited. And then we're going to be into a real serious problem, because that is depression level. When all the big corporations start going out of business, when everybody's unemployed, when there is no other way to feed your family, when you can no longer afford the roof over your head because you can't even find a job, that's when we're going to start seeing some real serious issues. And I think that is what I'm seeing on the horizon. If they can't get this inflation in check and they can't get these fossil fuels in check, this is where we're going. And that is because they insist on enforcing these green energy initiatives. So China could, I guess, be the next superpower, but I'm looking more at a conglomerate. If something like that happened, I see I see China, I see Russia. And I got to be careful here because I just keep tossing out these words. I'm liable to end up with some sort of a strike on my channel. But you can definitely see these different countries uniting and creating their own group. So we'll just have to see how all of that plays out. How much have I told my kids about the future or things that might happen? I'm trying to inform without fear. Yes. You know what? I think they kind of overhear different things. If they have questions, I'm there for them. I don't really go into a ton of great detail with them. I let them kind of think life is normal, except for we go ahead and we still are praying. We still are putting up the things that we need. They're very much aware of what mom is putting back. And I've also had conversations with them. They know not to share any of this information out at school or anything like that. I don't believe in being in hiding all of this from them. I don't think it's even possible with as much stuff as I have to get it in here without them knowing about it. So it's better to just go ahead and include them and tell them why they don't want to share that information with anybody else and why it's important, and just be open and honest with your kids, because I think that's really important. I think a lot of times we over baby our children and we think they're not capable of understanding anything, and they really understand more than you give them credit for. And if they have questions, just make sure you go ahead and answer it on their level. You know how to censor things and how to articulate things as a parent so that you can tailor it to their age group. And I think that's going to be important. Yes, BRICS, and now Saudi Arabia is a new so now, yep. And we really need to be paying attention to that, because I think that is going to be something that we need to keep in the back of our minds as something that's definitely going on, that's going to trigger a lot of events in the near future. Yes, that's right, Sassy Gal. I saw that too. That has been mentioned several times. I think that actually happened about a month ago, if I'm not mistaken. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, they have done that. They want to, we all know what the end goal is, right? I mean, I think most of us here are pretty wise to the fact that they have to collapse the dollar if they're going to implement this new system that they want to create. So that is why I believe this administration has been on a tear about destroying everything. They are not as inept as they try to pretend to be. So I see us definitely collapsing sometime in the near future. That is the direction that we're headed. And they are going to be bringing on these CBDCs. This is going to happen. And I don't know that there's anything that we could do to really stop that. Because, and as far as I'm concerned, for those of you that are Christian, I think this is biblical, what we're witnessing. So, do you have a plan if shut down while kids are away from home? Yes, we do have a plan. They do know that if they are at school, because they have been at home with me for the last 2 years, they've been doing online school. So they do know that if they are at school, they are to stay there. They are to wait for mom. I do have extra things packed for them. I'm actually, something that I would suggest you guys do, and this is something that I'm going to do. You can go ahead and pack an extra bag or something and leave it there at the school as like an emergency bag. Have a conversation with the teachers and just say, hey, I'm just going to leave this here. Do you have someplace I can put it? They usually have some sort of room in cubbies or something. And just see if you can leave some things in there, like some, extra water, extra snacks, whatever it is, maybe a little flashlight, just some things in this bag. You could even put some things in there if you're concerned about potential nuclear threats. There are a few things you could stick in there for that. I would just leave a bag there at the classroom. That is something that you could do in case they were to be away from you in an event. But mine do know to wait for mom. I will come and get them. I'm not working. I am nearby. So they are both within a mile of me. I would be able to get to them fairly quickly, but there obviously are circumstances where they would have to wait a little bit longer. So yes, I think it's very important that you have those conversations with your children. You have plans in place with your spouse. If they're not working from home, I know a lot of us are at this point, but if they're not, then having those conversations, having meetup points, it's all going to be very important going forward. Did I miss anything? Yes, exactly, Pepper. And that is where we are headed. One world government, world currency, world religion, one world everything, right? Yes, and that's a really great point. Thank you for bringing that up, Lee. And that is exactly why I believe that if you guys have any spare money, I know a lot of us don't right now, but if you feel like you've got a lot of your food, your water, your filtrations, your all the gear and things that you need, start picking up a little bit of silver or gold. I know gold is one of those that's going to be a lot harder for people to try to invest in, and don't invest in anything that is going to be a digital version of that. Make sure you take possession of it and make sure you have someplace safe where you can stash it. I do believe in having some precious metals as a hedge against inflation and what we are witnessing. So I'm not saying you have to do this, but this is something that we've done, and it's something that I think is going to be important. Let's see. Do I see anything else? I don't really see anything else. Did you guys have any other question? I don't want to like end the stream and there was a question I missed or something. And I don't want you guys to be in fear. That is the last thing that I want you to be. We don't want to be in fear about any of this. We were told these things would come. And I do believe that God is going to strengthen us. He's going to help us. He is going to, that's exactly right, Lisa. God will win. And we know that, right? We already know that. And we have peace in knowing where we're going. And so we can prep and do all of these things that we need to do. And that's right, apartment prepper. I know you and I have been talking about this a lot. There's always hope. There's always hope in Christ Jesus. And so we just have to remember that no matter how dark things get, He's there with us. He's going to get us through this. And I believe that He can actually help us come out on top in these situations. If we draw close enough to Him, He will give us the information we need to be completely ready and prepared. And if we're doing everything that we can, and I know that we are, then He is going to do His part. And there was a scripture that I wanted to, whoops, what did I do with it? I wanted to share with you guys. So we're going to go ahead and put this one up here. So the Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusted in Him, and I am helped. Therefore, my heart greatly rejoices, and with my song, I will praise Him. Psalm 28:7. And I believe that is a wonderful scripture. He is our strength. He is our shield. If we put our trust in Him, He is never going to leave us or forsake us. He is our ever present help. And we need to remember that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this now. I thank every one of you for being here. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you to my mods, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you guys all next time. I don't think I'm going to be having a stream next Friday. I would probably put out a video instead, just because we're going to be celebrating my youngest birthday next weekend. So there's a lot of things I got to do to get ready for that. But I will probably go ahead and have one the following week. I'm going to try to keep up with these every week if I can. And yeah, so I just wanted to give you that little bit of information. You guys have a great night, and I will see you again later. Bye.